let's not call it a failed state, but it's a failing state. But there are certain reasons again which give some kind of safeguard to Nepal. One is its currency is pegged to the Indian currency, so economically it will be okay so long
Yes.
as Indian economy is okay. Two, it's not only the Nepali leaders who are culprit or responsible for what has happened in Nepal. It's basically India.
Welcome to the Gist on Strat News Global. I'm Surya Gangadharan. Nepal is in a constant state of churn, political churn. We saw it 2 months ago when the Prime Minister Prachand dumped his coalition ally, the Nepali Congress, and set up a new coalition with the Communist Party of Nepal, whose leader KP Sharma Oli had earlier dumped him when they were in power together some years ago. Some of the churn is again visible, and I'm going to get perspective and insight on this from my friend in Kathmandu, Yubaraj Ghimire. He's the editor of desanchar.com, an online news portal based in Kathmandu. Yubraj, good to have you again.
Thank you, sir.
Yubraj, 2 months ago, we were talking about, Prachand walking out of that coalition with the Nepali Congress and setting himself up with the very people who had pulled him down earlier, the Communist Party of Nepal, and also, of course, with the JSM. What do we make now of the tremors in the coalition again?
Well,
One of the coalition partners has split. What is going on?
y- you, yeah, this indicates two, three things. Simple. One is something called ideology doesn't exist in Nepali politics.
Yeah.
Leaders have the political ambition and power is the uh, key factor that guides their politics. So you forget what happened to you 2 months ago, a week ago, so long as it gets you closer to the power. That exactly what happened in case of Senior Madhesi and KP Oli Sharma when Prachanda decided suddenly to have KP Sharma Oli in place of Nepali Congress and Senior Madhesi. Now Upendra Yadav's party is split. There were 12 members. He's out now. Upendra Yadav cannot continue, and the splinter group will be joining the cabinet. Whole idea based, but the key player here, I don't think it's Prachanda. It's basically Oli, who has
Uh-huh.
a better understanding of politics, enough patience to pursue politics in his interest, and conceal his ambition that he wants to be prime minister at the moment. It looks like he doesn't want to be. But as far as the question of split of the political party is concerned, it's not. It's just the beginning. I think there will be more parties, falling victim of that. So that splinter groups are bigger than the original parties, and they join the coalition via KPOLI.
I see. I see. KP Oli has been in this game for a long time. And one of the reasons why Prachand had split from him earlier was because apparently there was an understanding that he would become PM and Oli decided to sabotage him.
Yeah.
So, does it mean Prachand is very naive to join hands with this man again?
No, he is not naive. He understands, but he's helpless. He knows that like best way to continue in the power is like feigning to be naive. But he understands. He also understands that Oli is not someone who will easily forgive anyone. He is very
Hmm.
vindictive politically, and he has a very, very, I mean, literally, I mean, he has a memory which doesn't allow him to, like forget
Forget
anything.
or
So,
forgive.
yeah. So, but this is something that has been continuing because they have long discarded any ideology, any party, Nepali Congress, UML, and also, like you mentioned, you refer to that about Prasanda and Oli falling out, Oli not honoring the agreement they had that, half term he would be heading the government and leaving
Yeah.
the second half to Prachanda. He didn't honor that. That's why they fell out. So he is not. I mean, they none of them has honored the agreement to leave the party, especially during the past 3 4 years. So it's not going to happen again. But Prachanda knows that he has to, he should not be aggressive, and he should be very. I mean, he should be seen naive to continue in power.
Mhm. So, what do you expect is going to happen now? Prachand doesn't have the numbers, not enough numbers, and the CPN is the dominant partner in this coalition. In that sense, it would appear that the stakes favor Oli.
Well, yes, but in a hung parliament, normally, if they don't follow the rule, it's always the smaller parties that derive benefit out of it. Because Nepali Congress is the largest party, but they couldn't carry enough majority, that 138 magic mark, to lead the government, and they won. Second, Sherbadur, when this parliament was elected in 2022 December, and Nepali Congress emerged as the largest party, Deuba was generous enough to, let Prachanda be the prime minister first, and then leave it to him
Yeah.
for the second term. But before that second term, and before that, deadline was going to be going to come, then Prachanda changed the coalition partner. So that has become infructuous. Same here. So now Oli also same thing, because not too many parties will be supporting Oli. But if he supports Maoists, hoping that Prachanda will, for a change, honor the agreement, he can become the prime minister. So he's, he'll be having to show enough patience for that time to come.
So
I mean,
you were
Oli.
telling me that. Mhm. So you were telling me that it is basically lust for power that is driving these politicians. There is no ideology here. In
Yeah.
that sense, would you say this democracy revolution that you had 16 years ago, which has
Yeah.
seen 13 governments, in that sense, has democracy failed in Nepal?
Yeah, Surya, yeah. In fact, when the 2005-6 democratic movement took place, and they were, after the success of the movement, success meaning King Gyanendra handed over power to the political parties. He announced that,
Yeah.
Constituent Assembly would be elected, and that Constituent Assembly would be drafting the new constitution. That was the agreement. But then these leaders were guided by euphoria. Okay, we have got this, and this is democracy, without following or honoring any values enshrined in political system called democracy. They don't debate anything. They didn't debate a single clause of the constitution in the Constituent Assembly. There was not a single amendment moved. Eight leaders, including Maoists, they have come together against the takeover by the king, and so anything they will decide, in that becomes part of the constitutional law. This is no democracy. Nepal doesn't have democracy. It's
Mhm.
just a label, because democracy also has to honor the system of accountability, parliament
Yeah.
supremacy. It's not there. Absolutely no.
Mhm. So, what happens now? I mean, the electorate appears to be banking on these politicians to deliver who never do. What
Yeah.
is the alternative? Is it back to the monarchy?
Well, if monarchy had been abolished following due process of law and taking into account people's wish, I think this should have led to establishment of permanent republic. But that was not the case. King Gyanendra did you know like uh, did something that people didn't like, that is taking over power. They people's version was, king doesn't have the right to execute, or doesn't have the right to have executive power. So he realized that, handed over. But political parties did go overboard and they went against the understanding or agreement and aspiration of the people. So they abolished monarchy again without any debate. They just say Nepal is from now onwards a republic. And who moved that constitution? Who moved that resolution? Someone who didn't have the power and authority to enter parliament or the constituent assembly. That was a person who had lost the election. And
Mhm.
that rules of procedure of the house didn't allow these people outsider to get into the house. Somebody who had lost the mandate, the government had lost the mandate, that very old government, without taking fresh vote, and a person who had lost the poll gets into the, it was literally trespassing. He moves there and moves the resolution that monarchy is abolished, they clap and monarchy is gone. But the headache began, and King Gyanendra started regaining his popularity and more popularity after he decided to leave inside the country, something a rare thing that a dethroned monarchy doesn't leave. I mean, leaves the country, but he decided to leave. But now what has happened is the this poor delivery, rampant, very transparent corruption is making these political
Hmm.
parties very unpopular. And in the same proportion, he's become popular. I mean, there is no due, process for this. Has not become an issue of securing public mandate, who wants what, but this constitution and this system has failed to deliver. And leaders are very, very unpopular. And
Hmm.
only thing, because they're surviving, they are not being investigated or being framed in the corruption cases because the cabinet has adopted a rule that no prime minister or cabinet would be investigated for any lapses while taking policy decision. And how they have defined policy decision is
Convenient.
any decision taken by the cabinet is a policy decision. So they are getting that, they are hiding under the shelter of that immunity they have created for themselves.
So, is Nepal a failed state, a failing state? How would you describe this?
Well, we let's not call it a failed state, but it's a failing state. But there are certain regions again which give some kind of safeguard to Nepal. One is its currency is pegged to the Indian currency, so economically it will be okay so long
Hmm.
as Indian economy is okay. Two, it's not only the Nepali leaders who are culprit or responsible for what has happened in Nepal. It's basically India that time, which brought Maoists and seven political parties together and pushed the Maoists into center
Really?
stage of Nepali politics. They collaborated with the Maoists, a force they themselves had called terrorists. That is, I think that's a major lapse or aberration in India's pursuit of its foreign policy or neighborhood policy, which maybe India has to, review sometimes. And third is India took the lead role in the political in injecting radical political change in Nepal, and European countries and US were its allies. So now they don't have to take the responsibility for this mess that
Yeah.
Nepal is in. But
Hmm.
and so long as they don't call Nepal a failure, which will also be their failure, Nepal won't be a failed country. So by default, Nepal is not a failed or not even failing country in that manner. But people are very, very restive. They are very angry, disorganized anger, scattered anger. Leaders are really, really like in a bad phase of their political career. They have to be accountable.
So, outside countries, I mean, okay, like India, perhaps, does the constant instability in Nepal? Are you saying it helps India? It helps the Chinese to grow their own, play their own
Well,
games?
well, the way they have put their position, I'll tell you, like some Indian diplomats who have served in Nepal, and some academic who are saying that, they are also saying in their books that Nepal's controlled controlled political instability suits India, including former ambassadors have said that.
Mhm.
So, but I don't think that's possible. I don't think beyond a point, India has seen its own internal politics that, to control a situation beyond a point is not possible. We have seen it in Punjab and all that.
Yeah.
So it may not be possible now. After that 2005 2006 exercise, when India brought other players, mainly Western countries, in Nepal's internal politics, China came in reaction. So it's now multiple players, with Nepal
Mhm.
turning into a playground of international forces who compete at times, also confront at times. So it's not possible for India to stick to that. Okay, Nepal will control it. It's not a switch off or switch on game anymore. Second,
Mhm.
China keeps saying that we want Nepal's stability, we respect Nepal's independence, and we won't tolerate anyone going against that. That's also a very veiled kind of threat. But the point is, so long as Nepali leaders don't exercise this autonomous politics and diplomacy, and the situation will be bad. But Nepalese people have realized it. They are very angry. They are getting more and more organized, and their tirade is clearly directed against these leaders who were
Mhm.
party to that radical change, but who couldn't sustain it, who couldn't make turn it into a delivering democracy.
Yubraj, you mentioned that there is this organized kind of movement within political parties to kind of change things or reform things. Can you tell us a little bit more about how this is happening and who's doing it? Which party it is happening in?
One is the biggest party, the Nepali Congress. Out of 2,000 national delegates of the party, more than 1,000, more than 1,200 in fact, they have submitted a petition that this secular Nepal, secularism be debated, reviewed, and Nepal's earlier status as the Hindu state be restored. They are
Mhm.
saying that the secularism is basically undefined. Nothing was defined at the time of constitution promulgation, and this has only allowed massive conversion with the use of money, and which will lead to demographic, shift. That's their
Mhm.
concern. With the party said it will. There's last month there was a massive rally under the leadership of Rashtriya Prajatantra Party for restoration of the monarchy, and there are movement different parts of the country against corruption. Meaning, when you say against corruption, it's against the current leaders. So there is
Mhm.
this discontent very visible, which will be, and also the former king has been touring different parts of the country, and he is being accorded huge welcome. I think here
Mhm.
also next week in Kathmandu, he's going to, you know, like trudge along certain areas of Patan. These factors are they're quite political factors. One, two. Also, this change of coalition would now make it mandatory for Prachanda to seek another vote of confidence, fourth in the past
Mhm.
15, 16 months. So basically, that government stability, nobody trusts this government will remain, and this government will be effective enough to deliver. Will Nobody believes in that. And fourth
Mhm.
is there are so many contradictions. Like recently after the change in coalition in the central government, four provinces had their leadership out. I mean, because of the change of coalition, they had to resign, and new leadership have come up. But it was such a problem that there was no provision in the constitution which would be dealing with this kind of situation uniformly. Different
Mhm.
provisions of the constitutions were invoked, which only proves that this constitution is not adequate to address the emerging problems in the country. So one plus other thing is corruption. I'm sure, there are many people who are approaching the court with specific cases of corruption against the leaders, and also the report of the Auditor General, which shows huge lapses and irregularities unaccounted, money. So all these lead to, safe conclusion that this system is not going to last.
Mhm. So, what happens now? Do you expect a vote of confidence that Prachand will have to seek? What is your.
Prachanda has to go for a mandatory vote of confidence, but like Oli is the supreme leader. Whatever he does, now there is a very ongoing case. Parliament has been installed. Parliament has been installed, Surya, for more than 5 weeks now, because Nepali Congress has been disrupting the house, demanding that the deputy prime minister and home minister, who belongs to the Rashtriya Swatantra Party, is is involved in a massive cooperative corruption. Nepali Congress
Mhm.
wants his resignation and a parliamentary probe to that. But Oli has been very firmly against it. He said, we are not supposed to be doing or considering every demand that
Mm.
Nepali Congress wants. So basically, he's shielding corruption. Oli is patronizing corruption, and Prachanda is helpless because he knows that if he challenges Oli, he will be out
Yes.
any day. So these are the kind of political traps that the government operates from, the government leadership operates from, and to expect much from this government is really not very pragmatic, I guess.
Mm. So, it looks like some more churn in Nepal is ahead, and Yuvraj, we'll keep coming back to you for more on this. For now, we are completely out of time, and Yuvraj, thank you for that insight you've given us into goings on in Nepal. Let's hope some light is there on the horizon at the end of the day. Thank you very much. Good talking to you again.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
And that's all we have for you on this edition of The Gist. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on social media. Thank you very much. Goodbye.